It is now several days since Passover. The word of Jesus' resurrection is out. Yes, I was there. But nothing could have prepared us for what happened to our Lord that day. Although the Master had tried in so many ways to tell us, it always sounded so unbelievable. We didn't ever want to think that something as terrible as death on a cross would take our Lord away from us. I was beside myself with grief. His death brought this hollow feeling in my heart all the way down to my soul. For days it had been so hard for me to even catch my breath. It was like those demons of torment and anguish and despair were back inside of me again. Well, let me tell you my story. I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ and was the first person to see him after his resurrection, and the very first person to tell others that he was alive. I had met Jesus several years before. I don't remember who brought me to him, but at my age, everyone thought that God found no favor with me. I'd never married, no children, no next generation that my parents wanted so desperately. I had all of these harsh, destructive voices ranting in my head day and night, day and night. I would violently shake, and there was never any peace of mind for me. Off and on schooling at home, and mostly hidden away by my family. I was uncontrollable. I was mean. I was even destructive, and most people called me crazy. Even dangerous at times to myself and to others. Worthless. And I never felt like anyone loved me. That was too risky. I think everyone just gave up on me around the age of 14. And I'd just about given up on myself until the day I heard a man's voice talking to the voices in my head. Can you imagine that? After all my life of pound and pound and pound and pound and pound, and now someone is finally trying to help me. I heard his voice condemning the demons inside of me. And then suddenly, they let go of their grip on my mind and heart, and I could feel this freedom of life rushing through me like little foxes chasing their tails. For the first time in my life, I could endure the bright sunshine. I could hear clearly the sounds of voices softly talking, even shouting. And his voice. It was like he had looked into me, seeing something good, and erased everything inside of me that was trying to destroy that goodness. How could I not love him? How could I not worship him? Why, if it had been a priest or a doctor in my village that had done that, I would have praised them and talked about them for the rest of my life. Why not do it now for Jesus? He'd done more than just heal me of bad spirits. I knew at that moment I was healed through and through. His voice, his touch, told my heart that it was clean. It was like I was hearing and seeing everything for the first time. Everyone around me was astonished at the sudden difference that Jesus had made in my life. He reached down to lift me up. Somehow, he knew that my first thoughts were not to go back to my home because the demons might be there, hiding behind some dark door. What is your name, he asked. Mary. Mary of Magdalene, where they make the pretty cloth. Oh, Mary Magdalene, come with us. Come with us. I never dreamed that I would follow him and become one of his disciples. From then on, my life became a rush of moving from place to place, listening to his beautiful words of life and love. I saw his kindness and his mercy in healing the thousands who came to him, mostly just out of curiosity. No man ever had a bigger heart. He promised that we would come to love others just as he loved us. Only now do I understand the bigness of that kind of love. I discovered in the short time I was with him that nothing was too great, too small, too terrible, or too lost for Jesus. It was fun watching him with the little children. They were always the first to run to meet us when he came, and we came into another town along the way. He would stop and bless every one of them. He talked about doing his Father's business, and we should learn from him so that we could all do the same. Sometimes, while walking from one town to the next, he would glance sideways at one of us disciples and wink with his beautiful dark eyes. The fleeting look would always make me blush. I think most of his followers received his invitation to believe and trust him when they met him face to face. Standing near the cross that day, I saw that he was being crushed by what sounded like the same demons that he had called out of me. I watched them coming in and out of him, and I knew those voices, and they were attacking him. I was terrified and couldn't do the one thing that he had done for me. I couldn't set him free. Then this stranger standing near me kept saying, "The kiss of Yahweh. The kiss of Yahweh." What did he mean? Someone needed to make him be quiet. My Lord was just too young to take this horrible punishment. At the cross, I wanted to hit those soldiers with the biggest rock that I could find. I wanted to even go pull their hair out or something for what they were doing to my Lord. I dare not ever repeat the ugly words that they were yelling at him, and their laughter and his pain. On top of all that, they jammed him with a spear. Jesus was always telling us to love our enemies. Well, maybe I could love my enemies, but I couldn't love his enemies. A sudden chill had cast its shroud over the hill. I noticed that Jesus' body was shaking from the cold. looked so bruised, so forlorn. His last groans from the cross broke my heart. His final gasping wheezes drained all the hope from my soul. Although, I do remember, just before he died, he looked up towards heaven. That could have been a good sign. His glance might be a glimmer of hope for all of us. At last they could hurt him no more. Just then the earth began to shake and darkness hid the light that was all around us. Where could I hide? Terrified, I pulled my scarf down over my eyes and screamed to Yahweh, "Have mercy on me, have mercy on me." It lasted what seemed forever. And then, just as suddenly and quickly as it started, it was over. When Joseph and Nicodemus came to take his body, I noticed the linen cloths that they brought. I know cloth, and these looked much more expensive than ordinary burial clothes. Finally, in all this, someone was doing something right for our Jesus. His mother, Mary, and I offered to help them wrap his cold, dead body. We felt paralyzed in sorrow and could only find solace to follow them to the tomb where he would be buried. No respectful mourners, no official procession, just a few of us who loved him and believed. Jesus' mother seemed to have no life left in her. Stiff and cold and with sobbing, she held tightly to my arm. This was a difficult, difficult journey for all of us to make. I was so exhausted by the time that I got to the tomb, leaning against the rock they had moved to cover the entrance. I collapsed. At last, it was quiet. Too quiet. I don't know how long I was there. I just had to be close to my Lord. The soldier stationed at the grave finally made me leave. I stumbled down the pathway to home with so many questions whirling in my mind. What will I do now? I have no other places to go. Is this the end of all the good works that he did? Will they be forgotten? Will he be forgotten? I was so confused and so tired. I spent the night following Sabbath, laying down and awake on the floor of my room, trying to trace his face in the dirt. I tried to remember every expression. How he laughed, and how his cheeks would get so tight when he was angry or disappointed. All the deep wrinkled lines drawn by the Galilean sun, and his soft flowing beard, his dark brows, and those eyes. I shall never forget his dark eyes. They were like olives grown in Gethsemane garden. They would lovingly gaze deep into your heart, drawing your love out, and I knew that I would never forget my Lord. I finally fell asleep. The next morning before daylight, several of us made our way back to the tomb. The others carried oils and spices for Jesus' body. But I was there again to pour out my aching heart to Yahweh. I stumbled most of the way on that chilly, dangerous pathway. I thought, well, maybe the guards would just kill me and I could follow my Lord to the grave. And then it happened. Then it happened. As I was groping in the half-dark for the stone, where was it? Where was my Lord? Someone has taken his body. And then suddenly out of nowhere came this voice. Why are you crying? I only saw the outline of a figure standing before me, but the voice, that voice, that sounded so much like the one that spoke those identical words to the widow back in Nain. Her son was dead. Jesus had walked up to the boy's body and spoken to him words for someone living. Arise, said Jesus. And suddenly the boy raised up and life was in him. And now this voice, this same voice that had that soft, loving sound of comfort and concern for another's hurt and pain. Oh no, could that be the very same voice? And then he called my name. Mary, Mary. It is his voice. It is the Lord. Oh, Jesus, you are alive. I lunged forward to touch him to make sure that it was him, but he drew away. I couldn't believe it. He had returned to us with some kind of life I had heard him promise over and over. I was dancing and leaping and nearly missed his command to me when he said, Mary, go tell the others. Jesus is raised, and he is alive, and he is coming to you. He is alive. I raced down the pathway to find everyone, especially Peter and John. What great good news I had to tell them. I have seen the Lord. I have seen the Lord. I have seen the Lord, and he is alive. And that's the way it happened. Just like he promised.
Amen.